Dan, how are you?
Not too shabby, and you?
I am great. Thank you for taking the time today to talk manufacturing with me.
My pleasure.
So how did you get into manufacturing, Dan?
Well, it was a conscious choice. I had been working in distribution for about 25 years, and I had owned my own firm and had sold it, and I was looking for a new opportunity. And I researched and wanted to enter an industry where I could build a business easily. In manufacturing, the type of manufacturing we do, there are over 20,000 players, and of those 20,000, more than 85% have less than 10 employees, right? So a firm that has less than 10 employees, what it suggests is this market is very diverse, that you can come into this market, and if you're good at your job, if you're a good marketer, if you're a good business person, you can pull, right? I came from an industry where the bulk of the industry, more like 50% of it, was controlled by two major competitors. In our market, less than 3% of the players have more than 500 employees. So this is a very diverse marketplace where anyone can take a stand and build a business, like your dad.
That's true. Would you say the barriers to entry are low in manufacturing?
The difficulty of, it's not that they're low, right? You can make a difference, you can get involved, and you can start to pursue. The difficulties are that in what we do, we have capital equipment costs and significant capital equipment costs. People start out slow, they'll buy a single machine, they'll buy a used machine, and they can start to grow. But there are businesses with lower barriers to entry as far as starting in a business. I used to supply janitorial supplies. A person can become a janitor for under 500 bucks.
Wow, really? I didn't know that.
You can rent a tool if you need it. So in terms of barriers to entry, I think there are great opportunities to get into this industry, but you and I have both ended up in this industry coincidentally. Really, the more appropriate way would be to start by learning the trade.
Correct.
And then to branching into ownership.
Yes.
Both of us came a different route. I researched and said, I'm going to make a difference. I came in with no prior knowledge of manufacturing. I just bought this business and learned as I went, right? That's probably not the best way to do it.
Yeah, we have something in common. We both have our MBAs, so
Right.
we're business people and we got
Right.
into manufacturing. I wasn't technical when I got into manufacturing. Were you technical?
I have always been a person that has had a technical element to my personality. I had no knowledge of how things are made or built in this particular market. So, and that, I guess the answer is no.
And how many years have you been in this industry?
14.
That's a long time. But every day is a new thing to learn in this industry, would you say?
Yeah, there are big differences between distribution and manufacturing. In the business I was in before, I was bored. I was doing okay in it, but there isn't a lot of challenges. There's not a lot of new. When you're distributing something, you're distributing the same thing. Quantities may vary. There may be some specifics of each relationship with a customer, but basically, in this case, toilet paper, toilet paper, toilet paper. There isn't much to it. In what we do now, customers come to us and they have a need. They have some problem they're trying to solve.
Exactly.
And they don't have an answer. They're looking for an answer.
Yeah.
So I find every day very exciting.
And fulfilling?
Very.
Same. I love it. I love it. Tell us what your capabilities at Brightlight Welding and Manufacturing is.
So here at Brightlight, we're a metal fabricator. We're part of the SIC code that describes metal manufacturing. It's a broad category. So within the category, the SIC category, there is machining, which is what your firm does. There is sheet metal work. There is welding. And there's turning, and there's forming, and there's bending. There's all these sub-elements that can be worked on in our segment. What metal fabricators do is they work on all those processes to complete something more complex. So we buy machined components, or we do produce them in-house. We have machining capability. We have forming capability, which means that we can take metal and we can bend it into a shape. We have rolling capabilities, which means that we can take sheets and give them radius back and forth and in many different directions, conicals or whatever. We have tube bending equipment where we can take a tube and bend it. We have laser cutting capabilities, and we have tube laser capabilities. So a metal fabricator relies on all the sub-elements. Some of it we have in-house and some of it we contract out. So we combine everyone else's processes.
And like you said, we are a machine shop, so we do mostly machining work. I've never asked this before because I'm not technical just yet. I'm becoming more technical because I've only been in this industry for 5 years. Do you think it's easier for someone to get into machining or fabrication sheet metal?
I think, well, to draw a distinction, there's often an overlap between sheet metal and fabrication. There's a lot of overlap, but sheet metal itself is very specific in terms of the tooling. I think whenever you take on a single trade, it's probably easier to command it. Like, I probably don't have the depth of knowledge that you do in machining already, right? It's just an element. Someone gives me a complex print. Maybe there are parts that have to be machined within it and parts that have to be cut and formed within it, parts that have to be sheet metal. So my knowledge base is more generalized, but spreads across the various, I don't know what you call them, elements of the market. So I do think that fabrication is probably a little more confusing than single trade work, right? Because there's a lot to learn in any individual process.
Got it. So if we have students who are interested in manufacturing and they could either go into sheet metal or to be a machinist, why would they choose sheet metal over machining?
Well, I'd say that if we're talking to students and we're referring to students as being in high school,
Yeah.
I think that this is a self-selection process. What does the student like to do? Is this student a curious person? Are they mechanical in their orientation, right? Are they more, are they sophisticated in the way they learn? I mean, not everyone is college material, and I think one of the travesties of our culture is that we tend to favor a college education over practical skills, which we suffer in the United States. Speaking of welding only, we have a shortage of something like 195,000 welders annually. Not enough welders to go around. Not enough welders to go around because we're not producing them. In my shop, the average age is over 50.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we need people who want to make good money and who have craft capabilities. So a welder is a craftsman. A sheet metal worker is a craftsman. Even a CNC operator, a machinist. is a craftsman. They're slightly different skills. So for example, if you're pursuing machining is basically the ability to take a look at a model, which is essentially a drawing or a drafting in 3D of something that needs to be built, and translating it into code that enables the machine to produce it. So CNC equipment, machining equipment, basically whittles shapes using various tools that cut away material from blocks. So that requires a certain type of intellect, right? On the other hand, sheet metal work and welding work, sheet metal work is kind of a crossover. You have to do calculations and you have to figure out how pieces fit within the equipment because we're concerned about precision. So we just can't shove something into something and hit a button. You have to do calculations and set up the equipment correctly. On the far scale is welding. Welding is a craft. Many people learn to weld as an art form, not even as to produce commercial goods. So I would say a lot of that depends on what is the passion of the person who's pursuing the opportunity. Am I a person that works with my hands? Do I like to calculate and figure things out, right? So these all come into play. There's room for anyone who wants to move into manufacturing. There's so much need in so many areas.
And while, technical, right, being good with hands, but also we need more marketers in manufacturing, salespeople in manufacturing, accountants. There's just so many.
Without a doubt. What I think is when there are two sides to our equation in manufacturing. There's what we call production and what we call operations typically. Production is work that's done on the floor. That's where the craftsmen are, that's where the machinists are, and that is one element. When I think of accountants and I think of salespeople, well, not so much salespeople, when I think of accountants or operational people, I think of a generalized skill that can't be applied to manufacturing. And from there, it has to do with what stimulates someone when they get up in the morning. I think if you do something that you like to do, you never work a day in your life.
Exactly.
Right?
Do you think you're working?
Never. In fact, I've reached a point where I could be retired, and I keep saying I'm going to work less, but I love what I do every day. Yeah.
Same here. Same here.
As long as that's the case, why would you slow down?
Correct. I also get really excited because we get to support really cool industries, like such as medical, aerospace. How about you? What industries do you get to support at your company?
So in what we do, we're called a job shop, and that means that we rarely see projects that are ongoing. We get small jobs or of a limited scope. So we often produce for a wider range of industries because they're giving us small run production or small run opportunities. So I particularly like working with in the automobile industry. I like anything that's startup related. Right now we have worked over the last 3 years with 6 different companies working on flying vehicles.
So cool.
Isn't it cool?
So cool.
And we know those names. They're
yes,
in the press,
we do. Oh.
Right? And it's very interesting when you help produce something that has a commercial flying car.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't call it a flying car. That's more like
I know.
childhood memories, but it's basically a flying car. It lifts off and it goes to your house and it sets right down the driveway. So that's fascinating to me. And it's fascinating to me to help people move from idea, concept to production.
I know. It's so fulfilling.
So in terms of sectors, sure, we work in the automobile sector. We work in this aerospace. We work in military, certain amount of military. We work in, well, the larger organization works in food service. There's many segments that we work with. And then you have this category, which it's very hard to describe. When you're talking about startups, there's just a million different concepts that people have, right? Battery technology and self-driving cars. There's a whole bunch of manufacturing that goes on around self-driving software, not the actual vehicle, but there are several companies in the Bay Area who are trying to develop the concept of the software and need to have customizations to vehicles for it to work. And then you just have huge companies like Google and Amazon and you name it that are based here or Apple who have large presence here and they make lots of stuff.
Yeah, I feel like we're pretty blessed too that we get to live here in Silicon Valley, work here, and this is, the innovation hub
of the world.
Yeah, I know.
Not even simply the U.S., of the world.
Yeah, and so flying cars. So the name of my show is Making Things Fun, Cool, and Sexy. Flying cars to me, all three of them.
Fits the bill.
All three.
Totally.
When I heard about flying cars, and I know these companies that you're talking about, wow, like this is the future.
I know. Sure.
It really lights me up.
And it's invested. Yeah. So it isn't just a concept. I mean, there are companies with fundings in the hundreds of millions of dollars working on this concept. This is going places. Even if those companies fail, the concept moves forward.
Correct.
Right? With a startup, there's always this possibility that its management team took the wrong direction or isn't that strong or whatever. Companies come and go in the startup realm, but the concepts move forward.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think flying cars and a lot of cool industries that we get to work with because they're all prototypes. When you say low volume production, that means prototyping, and so that's something that we get to work with here is prototypes, and it's
sure. Well, and actually, some of the companies down here are producing products that have such a high ticket. Like if you're making something that costs $30 million a unit, you really aren't producing that many of them. It isn't like you're a car company producing 100,000 vehicles at $30 million a unit. That's just not how that's done. So we actually, just to add this in, we do a lot of prototype work, but we do get the small production run for the specialized companies producing these large dollar volume items.
And now onto a more serious question for you. How do you think we can localize our supply chain and support more American manufacturers?
Well, I think that's all. Many of these issues that come up for us are individualized. I think that it's done on a local level. So I know that from our prior interactions that we both use local players. Mm-hmm. We prefer local players. We try to support the local players. How do you support them? You reach out to them and you start things like, we belong to a loose-knit software users group. Mm-hmm. That's how you support local businesses. You support the effort of getting together to solve common problems so that we're more able to compete. You choose to pay a little bit more to help someone be in place for you when you need them. In our neck of the woods right around here, this is an interesting little area of Santa Clara. It's a very well-rounded city, and they've really designated the immediate area around us for small manufacturing and manufacturing support businesses. There's just hundreds all in our little neck of the woods.
Yeah.
So having said that, I would say it's using people and it's bringing those people forward along with you. So if you're having a user group, you invite new members to join. If you're seeing someone struggling, you ask them what are you doing with your software? How are you marketing? This could be why you're suffering right now, is you're relying on an existing customer pool and not getting new customers, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I think it's about networking, which I say is important in any effort to improve any situation.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I'll bring you next time to an AM Bay Area. It's a local manufacturing association that supports local manufacturers, and you would thrive in that environment.
Sure, I'm on their mailing list.
Yes.
I would love to attend.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Do you think that robotics and automation could also help with localizing the supply chain and bringing manufacturing back to the US?
Well, I do, because I think there's this whole industry that's springing up now where they're basically called integrators. They're robotic integrators. They're working with larger firms and they need our services to build their things to automate. For example, we worked on a project to automate the manufacture of pizza. There was a large company, there was a company that sprung up that was producing an automated process by which they could produce a pizza in the truck while they were driving to the delivery.
No way.
Yes. So basically, if you order the pizza, they're making it on the drive. It couldn't be any fresher or hotter. It finishes at your door. So that's interesting kind of technology. And all that was done with robotic integrators. And we supported the robotic integrators. They purchased their robots, but they need framing and they need, weldments, and they need machine components, all this to make the product work. So I'd say that any movement in the industry forward is something that we can support. Sure, I could see robotics taking a place in our own plants. I've spent a lot of time researching robotic welding, but it's really more scaled for larger production runs than we see. So there are cost restrictions with all these things, but I essentially think that it's based on our location here in Silicon Valley. Robotics are powerful for us. They only can mean more business.
Correct. Yeah. And not necessarily, I don't think that it's less jobs, because I think that we still need the humans to program the robots and run the robots, right? I think the humans will have more advanced skills because of robotics.
I sure hope so.
You don't agree with me?
What I think is, to the degree that changes in technologies spurn growth, it's wonderful. That theory works. I mean, when we went from riding horses, I have this conversation with my wife all the time, and when we went from riding horses to driving cars, it really meant there was a lot more transit, a lot farther transit. It spurned the hotel industry, it spurned the automobile repair, and there was so much growth as a result. So to the degree that what's being done creates newer opportunities, I think that's true. But then there are concepts that we're working on here, like self-driving cars. How does a self-driving car, what does that mean? Does that mean we have less need for drivers? Good. I don't know. I'd say that not to take the tack in this turn this conversation as it relates to what we're doing. What I think is new technology is good for us. New technology, however it finally lands at the role that we play on our level as small business owners, it's good.
Yeah, and I ask this because my mission is to entice the younger generation to get into manufacturing. We recently spoke at different high schools, but local high schools, to just share what we do to get them excited about manufacturing. And I think that, if they had an opportunity to maybe design robotics to help with the manufacturing process, that would help too. And so that's why I asked about robotics. But what else do you think we can do to excite these students or to get them into manufacturing?
Well, I think the outreach programs that we're doing, this is back on, you and I are doing something. We're stepping up and we're going to try to make a difference each in our own way. Going into classrooms and showing people what robotics are about, or what is engineering, or how products are made and how they might participate. that makes a difference. Getting the government to fund these kind of programs. I mean, a lot of money goes into college-bound programs, but I think it's the experience you have in the real world that brings you your success. And not everyone has to go to college to do that, but we've got a real track that leads us towards college instead of any of a number of trades. I'm sure carpenters are hurting too.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with you. Same. I love school. I love to learn. And I like to learn in a classroom, but it's not for everyone. And I don't think that the next generation has to pursue it. You know, of course, if they want to, I'm not going to say, no, don't get a four-year degree. I'm saying that there's different opportunities after high school.
Sure.
You could go to trade school to learn machining or sheet metal or
Welding. Or whatever. Sure.
Yeah, right? There's so many different opportunities for the next generation.
And very transferable skill set. If you leave school and you have a business degree, you have a generalized opportunity to pursue something in business. You could be in sales, you could be in accounting, you could be in XYZ, you could be in finance, lots of different chances there. But the skills are not directly transferable, right? You have to demonstrate your skill set. If you could show, hey, I have a certificate in in welding and I have these certs that I've collected, anyone who owns a weld shop wants to hire you. Anyone. You could take that to Nevada, Idaho, New York, California, and if you say, here's my proof that I know how to weld, I'm interested. Yeah. I talk to every person that comes to my door saying they have welding skills. I have a whole setup and a way I test them. I did the same with machining. We no longer operate machining here. It's been consolidated into Fresno. I did the same with machining. I had a little test. Show me what you can do, because if you can find a good person in that skill set, I would hire them ahead of the need. I'll hire them ahead of the need. I'll figure out how I afford it because they're that hard to find.
Yeah. There's a huge shortage of huge. We need more machinists. We need more people in the trade industry. And I've met some awesome, skilled machinists who, after high school, he just worked in a machine shop, and now he has a machine shop, a plating company.
Sure.
He owns an orchard in Gilroy because he's so good at what he does, and now it's so lucrative, right? So,
well, and it's a natural. I mean, there is a natural path that you see with the people that really command the skills.
Yeah.
They start by working for someone, and eventually they branch out and start their own. It's become one of those 20,000 people that are making good money in their shop and moving the economy forward.
Yeah. So there's so many opportunities. We are here in the land of opportunities.
Truly.
Yeah. I think that every person who is successful has gone through some sort of challenge in order to get to excellence. What is one of your experiences where you failed or things didn't go right and you were able to get out of it and you became successful?
So when I first bought Brightlight, I bought it with an understanding that there was a focus on one customer. So we had a customer that represented about 65% of the business, which is not uncommon in our marketplace. It is not uncommon that there's a major customer that drives the bulk of the business at that individual firm. It's a business risk. I intended on diversifying and finding new customers. That's how you offset the risk, is you find more customers. You don't basically fire your customer, you find more business and then that percentage goes down. Well, in this case, within 3 months of the time I bought the business, that customer relocated and that business went away. 65% of that business. Now, this was a business when I bought it that didn't have a network, didn't use computers, didn't have any marketing, used AOL addresses as email addresses, and basically needed a lot of infrastructure work, which I had thought I was going to have time to take on. I had budgeted a certain amount of money for associated costs to, like the costs of capitalization in the firm. And that money immediately went to cover losses. So by the 10th month, I was out of my capital, my monies that I was using to fund my growth, and I had to recapitalize. I had to go find more money. I had to, at the same time, work on a marketing program. I had to work on modernizing our tools, our marketing tools, not just our marketing tools. I brought us all into the 21st century because we needed to be networked. People were faxing us the prints.
Wow.
I had to bring all that up. I had to develop all those protocols. I had to basically find new ways of developing business, and I had to do that in real time. I was very fortunate. I discovered the use of Google and Google Ads, and so I was very successful with Google Ads. I was able to find the funding I needed to hang in and rebuild the business, and we survived that first year, and we only lost 50% of the original business from the year before. From there, we rebuilt, step at a time, opportunity, opportunity. The thing is, you can't give up.
Yeah.
You just gotta wake up every morning and go, it's not just my family I have to feed, it's all these people that are relying on me.
Exactly. You have grit, and that's what I love.
Grit.
Yes.
I
Yes.
don't think I knew what that term was before all that.
And where do you want Brightlight to be in 5 years?
So Brightlight, I sold Brightlight to a larger firm a couple years ago because I was moving towards retirement. And I'm glad I did that. It's really made my job a little easier. I take more vacation than I did before. So where Brightlight is in 5 years is, just to clarify, not for me personally. I see Brightlight evolving in what it does. Right now we focus on fabrication in its entirety, but here in the Bay Area there's a real subset that I think we can focus on and grow in, which is weld-only work, where some of the largest manufacturers around us are in need of welding because they don't have capacity or they can't do it themselves. So I see us moving more towards a weld-only model, which would simplify our operational needs. We were purchased by a company that has all the capabilities I once had, plus a million more. So slowly but surely, the need for us to do fabrication here internally is not the same. So I see us moving into a weld-only model, and then those customers that still want fabrication, working with them to the Fresno location, right?
Awesome. Well, I look forward to talking to you in maybe another 5 years, and then we could
Great.
check in and see where Brightlight's going to be. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.